I am humbled to stand before you who have served our country, performed your duty, and fought for the freedoms we have today. I am eternally grateful to each of you and thank you for your sacrifice. I am part of the Material Girls Quilting Group of Wisconsin Rapids. We are a group of about 80 women and a few men who meet once a month. Along with making 132 Quilts of Valor since 2016, we also make quilts for palliative care at Riverview Hospital and Christmas stockings for nursing homes and other charities. We are thankful for the discounts that the Cotton Thimble Quilt Shop in Wisconsin Rapids has given us for our material and batting. We are also thankful to the Wisconsin Rapids UPS store for donating the certificates and envelopes for the veterans. A Quilt of Valor is not a charity quilt or a blanket. It is a quilt consisting of 3 layers. The top of the quilt, with its many colors, shapes, and fabrics, represents the communities and the many individuals we are. Each stitch in the quilt represents the love, gratitude, and sometimes the tears of the maker. The batting is the center of the quilt, its warmth. It represents the hope that this quilt will bring warmth, comfort, peace, and healing to the individual who receives it. The back is the strength. It holds the many pieces of the quilt together. It represents the strength of the recipient, his family, our communities, and our nation. A Quilt of Valor is priceless. It can never be bought. It can never be sold or raffled. It is not a birthday or Christmas gift. It is given freely from the hands and hearts of the makers and their community. A Quilt of Valor is a thank you from all of us for your sacrifice. Today it is my honor to award the following individuals with their Quilts of Valor. On behalf of the Quilts of Valor Foundation, in recognition of your service for this nation. It is a privilege and honor and comfort, it is a privilege to honor and comfort you through the award of this Quilt of Valor. Though we may never know the depth of your sacrifice to protect and defend the United States of America. As a gesture of gratitude from a grateful nation, we award you this Quilt of Valor. Our first recipient is Gerald Blanc. Gerald served in the Armies and the Marines from 1962 to 1966 and 1976 to 1978. Trained as an F-4B pilot in instrument navigation and voice procedures at H Camp, HS Training Division, Kahanaho Bay, Hawaii. He was a drill sergeant academy graduate, 46 years in law enforcement, and 22 years as chief of police. Gerald Blanc. Our next recipient is Francis Czerny. Czerny served in Germany with the 9th Infantry Division from 1955 to 1956 as personal secretary to the commanding general, Major General Stroke. Francis Czerny. Our next recipient is Carl Cummings. Carl served in the Air Force from 1961 to 1965. He served on active duty 4 years with the 507th Cameron 438th Fighter Group. Carl Cummings. Our next recipient is Daniel DeRoche. Daniel served in the Air Force from 1988 to 1994. He participated in Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm with the 126th Air Refueling Wing. It was during Desert Storm that Dan sensed God's call to go into ministry. Daniel DeRoche. Oh, Daniel's not here?
That's Pastor, he's not here.
Okay, sorry, that's what he did. Sorry. Our next recipient is Leroy Donahue. Leroy served in the Air Force from 1956 to 1959. He served at Thule Air Force Base, Greenland in 1957. Served with the 90th Air Refueling Squadron at Sidi Slimane, Morocco during the Lebanon crisis of 1958. Leroy Donahue. Our next recipient, I hope, is Russell Jacobson. Mr. Jacobson served in the Army from 1950 to 1952. He served in Korea with the 9th Field Artillery Battalion B Company with the rank of corporal. He received the Korean Service Medal with 3 bronze stars, 3 bronze camp stars, and the UN Service Medal. Russell Jacobson. Our next recipient is Jerome Krofta. Mr. Krofta served in the Army from 1969 to 1971. He served in U.S. Army Central Finance in Heidelberg, Germany from 1970 to 1971. Also worked finance for the Wisconsin Army National Guard from 1980 to 2006. Jerome Krofta. David Loomis is our next recipient. Served in the Army from 1968 to 1970. He served in Country Vietnam 1968 to 1969 with the 554th Engineers near Chu Chi, Vietnam. I hope I said that right. David Loomis. Our next recipient is Peter Parsons. Mr. Parsons served in the Army from 1966 to 1969. He served in-country Vietnam with 20th Engineering Brigade, 169th Engineer Battalion from August 1967 until March 1969. Peter Parsons. David Posey is our next recipient. He served in country Vietnam with the 5th Special Forces from 1968 until 1969. David Posey. Peter Schneider served in the Army from 1968 to 1970. He served in Vietnam from May 1969 until April 1970 with the 101st Airborne Infantry in the A Shaw Valley from, oh, this is going to be hard, Phu Bai to Tam Kỳ. Peter Schneider. Schwarzenbeck, and I should know how to say this, served in the Army from 1965 to 1967. He was in Vietnam stationed with the Marines at the DMC and received a Purple Heart. The quilt that's being presented to him was made by his niece, Patsy. Sister, Patsy. I got them all mixed up. The next recipient is Milden Schwanenbeck, which I think I got the name right, maybe. He was a Marine from 1952 to 1955. He was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California. He served 14 months in Korea with a tank battalion. He was a sergeant when he was discharged. He received a Good Conduct Medal and a Korean Service Medal. Milden Schwanenbeck. Will Smith is our next recipient. He served in the Air Force from 1971 to 1995. He worked in avionics, aircraft maintenance on C-141, C-130, F-4, F-111, and F-15E. He served overseas in Iceland in 1976, England from 1983 to 1986, and outside of the continental United States in Alaska from 1991 to 1995. Will Smith. Robert Sparks served in the Navy from 1963 to 1967. He served in Vietnam with MCB-9A Company, MCH-3. He received 3 medals and 2 Bronze Stars. He had 2 tours in Vietnam. Robert Sparks. James Webb served in the Navy from 1962 to 1965. He was a Navy Seabee and served in Morocco, Spain, and Antarctica. James Webb. Our next recipient is Donald Williamson. He served in the Air Force from 1955 to 1977. He served 22 years of active duty. He was an airborne radar repairman, which he did aboard the RC-121 aircraft. Their mission was to detect any and all aircraft entering the airspace of the U.S. on the entire East Coast. He was also retrained into the Atomic Energy Detection System. He operated and maintained equipment used for monitoring foreign nuclear weapon tests in violation of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. He also worked on photo reconnaissance equipment used on the RF-4 aircraft. This was used to detect buildup of missile sites in unwanted areas such as Cuba. He served with the 1035 Technical Operations Group, HQ Command USAF. He had many overseas assignments, including Alaska, Fiji, Hawaii, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and Japan. He was awarded the Good Conduct Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters, the National Defense Service Medal, and Small Arm Expert Marksmanship Ribbon, Air Force Longevity Service Award with 4 oak leaf clusters, Air Force Outstanding Unit Award with 3 oak leaf clusters, and the and the Meritorious Service Award with 1 oak leaf cluster. Donald Williamson. Michael Witt is our next recipient. Mr. Witt served in the Navy from 1977 to 1983. He deployed with the USS Coral Sea Battle Group a few days after the Iranian hostage crisis started. He also deployed from May to November 1982 to the Western Pacific aboard the USS Bronstein DE/FF 1037. Michael Witt. Doug Walcott is our final recipient. He served in the Navy Air from 1961 to 1965. He served in the Vietnam era in the patrol squadron as an aviation structural mechanic. He received a commendation for saving an aircraft. His father was in the Marines in World War II, and he was named after General Douglas MacArthur. Mr. Walcott's wife and daughter will be presenting him with the quilt. Doug Walcott. Thank you all for your service. We appreciate those who are receiving quilts and those who are sitting in the audience. This concludes our presentation today. If you would just exit to the left one at a time, so you can stay seated for a picture, and then you can join your family and take as many pictures as you like. Thank you.